I love what you've got to in that too.
Hi guys, can we make sure everybody's muted?
Hello.
Hi, Chris.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. How about yourself?
I'm good, thank you. It's a sunny day in the UK, which is rare. So I'm happy.
Well, fantastic. It is kind of cloudy, but hot as heck here in Texas, as always.
So tell me about Peloton. Have I said that right?
Peloton.
Peloton. Yeah, it's the exercise thing, yeah?
Yeah, it started off with the exercise bike, and now they have the tread, and they have a lot of programs that are off the bike and off the tread. They have, Pilates, yoga, strength training, walking outside. I mean, it's a whole fitness movement.
I think I should get involved. I think they have it in the UK as well. I've just dodged
definitely. It. They've got a store and a studio in London, so they have Peloton instructors over there in the UK that are based.
I've got no excuse. That's all.
Yeah. Yes, you should definitely join in. It's a lot of fun.
It sounds it.
It boomed during the pandemic because everybody was at home but still wanted to get in a fitness or a sanity break. So
yeah, that's right. I go to the gym and I couldn't get any gym equipment for ages because it was all sold out everywhere. So it was really difficult. So I was running and things like that, but I really missed it because I go a bit mad if I don't exercise. It's hard, isn't it? Mentally, I think it really helps.
It does. It definitely helps. I mean, that's really the only reason I do it. It's not much fun some days, but
yeah, I grind it out. I don't enjoy it. So it's just a necessity. I've really got into swimming lately. I really enjoy swimming. Yeah.
I used to swim. I used to be a lifeguard back in the day, but now I just take my kids to the pool, and that's not relaxing for me.
No, same. Yeah, it's unpleasant, isn't it? I just try and stop them drowning.
Exactly.
Or stop them drowning me.
Mine are 3 and 5, so they think they know how to swim, but they don't really.
Yeah. Mine, my 8-year-old now was 6 just as the pandemic was beginning, and he missed all his swimming lessons, and so it was tough. So he's trying to play catch up now, and we've just come back. We were away in Greece for a couple of weeks, and so he was swimming every day there, but he was just like, I'd look over and just see him sinking, so I'd have to keep going and getting him constantly. Yeah, stressful.
It is. I see all of the moms in our group. They're like, oh, I'm going to take a book to the beach, and I said, no, I can't do that.
No. Well, I took some on holiday thinking I'd get time to read, but it's just I read nothing the whole time I was there. Nothing at all.
Well, were you in Greece for the book or just for vacation?
No, just for a vacation, but I had some US events while I was there. So it was, and because of the time difference, they were all at 2 a.m. So it was a holiday, but there was still some work to be done.
I remember when we first started chatting about setting up this event, and I told you that we usually do them at 7 p.m. and you're like, well, I don't sleep much. It's fine. And I said, well, maybe you'll be sleeping more, 5 months down the road, but it doesn't.
We actually aren't, because I've got a 14-month-old daughter, and we've just started sleep training because she's been in our bed the whole time. So none of us have slept for like the last year, and like we're a week into it, and it's just, it's awful. It's just the screaming in the middle of the night. It's so hard.
But blink and you miss it. So hopefully you will, this too shall pass. So. All right. Well, it's 10 o'clock Texas time. So I'm going to go ahead and get this party started. So good morning to everyone. Today, I am so excited to be speaking with Chris Whitaker for his amazing book, We Begin at the End. It was the #1 indie pick, the Barnes & Noble Book Club selection back when it was originally published, an indie, an instant New York Times bestseller, the winner of the International Crime Fiction from Australian Crime Writers Association, and winner for the Gold Dagger for Best Crime Novel for the UK Crime Writers Association, which, if you don't know, it's kind of similar, I think, to the Edgar here in the States. So it's a big deal.
It's there. You see it.
Yeah. There it is. It's cool. Well, congrats on all
showing off for it.
A few quick thank yous before we start. First off, thank you so much to Chris for taking his time out of your busy schedule to come and visit and chat with the Peloton Moms Book Club. Thanks to Jen Crowley for helping to set things up and all she does behind the scenes. Lindsay Grobacki for helping us with the technical side of things. And for all of the moms who have bought the book, loved the book, talked about the book, promoted it in the group, out of the group, just share the love for We Begin at the End. Thanks for making it to the live. And if you're catching us on the recording, welcome. And we appreciate you taking the time to come and check in on the chat. So with that, Chris, welcome.
Thank you very much. And thank you for reading out all of the awards and things, because I always feel like I'm really vain when I do that. So it's nice to have someone else do it.
No problem. Well, I mean, it has won a lot of things and it's just such an amazing book. I mean, I'm kind of stingy with my personal 5 stars, but this is my favorite book of 2021. So
Thank you. That's very cool. And I imagine you read a lot of books.
I do. I think I'm at like 150 for this year. So
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Read. So, and I just reread this. So I checked this book out because Kristen Hanna came and chatted with us and she said, you know, this book, you've got to read it. And so I immediately went and checked it out from my library, loved it. So then I went and bought it, which I very rarely will go out and buy a book in addition to having already read it from the library. So
yeah, she's been lovely. Actually, I worked in the library around the time when the book came out, and I was shelving Kristen Hanna books when she emailed to say that she had read it. So it was a strange moment. Very cool.
Did she blurb it? Did you ask her to blurb it, or did she just say, "Man, I love this. I need to put my stamp on it"? Or?
I don't know how it happened, but she read the book and then she messaged me, and I got a lovely email, and then they took a blurb from her lovely email. So it was very nice.
Fantastic. So tell us, you know, how did this book come to be? How did you become a writer? I'm familiar with the story, but I think a lot of our moms might not be. So please feel free to share it with us.
Okay, so I had a really strange road into publication and into writing. So back when I was a teenager, which is depressingly long ago now. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, really. Like, I had friends that wanted to be doctors and lawyers, and everyone seemed to be on the path that they wanted to be on, and I just had no clue. Like, I wasn't particularly good at any one subject, and just my parents would probably say that I didn't apply myself, is the nicest way of putting it. And the night before my economics exam, I went out and got really drunk, and drunk to the point where I woke up in hospital the next day, so I missed the exam, and so they were thrilled about that. And so I kind of messed up my chance to go to university. I could have retaken, but I would have had to spend a year doing it, and like I said before, it just didn't appeal. I probably would have gone for the lifestyle of being at university rather than, a lot of people do that, I think, though, anyway, don't they? Just for the experience. But I was keen to get out and work and earn some money, and so I kind of bounced around from job to job, and I did some bar work and things like that, and some sales, and again, nothing really appealed. But I was working as a real estate agent, and like a junior, like an office junior, and I was out dropping leaflets through people's doors quite early one morning in London, and someone came up to me and asked if he could borrow my cell phone, and being young and living in London, I kind of knew that I was going to get mugged, because it's not that uncommon. But I was 19 and brave and a bit stupid, and he was on his own, and I didn't want to give him my phone, so I just said no, and we had a bit of a fight, and it was fairly evenly matched until he pulled out a kitchen knife, and it was a really big knife, and I remember looking at it and thinking, you know, this is just to scare me. He's not going to use this. And then he stabbed me 3 times in the side, and I didn't realize at the time, because when the adrenaline's going, you don't really feel anything, and I just thought he was punching me, and but I was wearing a white shirt, and I looked down and it was just completely red, and then he went to stab me in the chest. This is over a cell phone. So he would have killed me, you know, happily over a phone. So I grabbed his hand, and he dropped the knife, and I dropped the phone, and he picked up both and ran off. And I was kind of left in this street, just bleeding. And not really knowing what to do. So there was no one around. So I got back to my car and drove myself to the hospital, which wasn't that far. And I just started to black out just as I got there, you know, when everything starts to dim because you're losing blood. And they got me inside and had loads of stitches. And I remember afterwards everyone telling me how lucky I'd been. And I remember feeling really unlucky that it happened. So I couldn't work it out. I got it, but I didn't. And the consensus was, you know, amongst my friends and a bit my dad, you know, kind of, you've been a man, slap you on the back, you know, that kind of thing that men do sometimes, and it doesn't really help anyone. And you're just expected to get on with this terrible thing. And then I went home and I couldn't sleep, and I kept seeing it over and over, and I didn't know about PTSD. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know why I couldn't sleep, why I wasn't eating, couldn't read a book, couldn't watch TV. But I just kind of smiled and told everyone I was fine. And because my mum was a single mum, and she worked in a bakery in the day and a liquor store in the evening, and she was tough, and she never complained ever. And we didn't have much, and she was just, so I think she instilled that in us, you know, just to kind of get on with it. And so I did, and I really tried to get on with it. But I started drinking and taking drugs and doing things that I shouldn't do, just to take my mind off it for a while. And you can only go on like that for so long before things get too bad. And I thought about, I began to hoard painkillers, and I was going to take them all. And that I sat down one night and I began to write a note to my parents just to kind of explain what had happened. And that day I'd been to the library, and I'd got a book, a kind of self-help book, a therapy book from the library, and it talked about this writing exercise you can do, where you take the bad thing that's happened to you, the traumatic incident, and you change the characters involved to fictional characters, and you change the location, you change the outcome. And I don't know if it's like a distraction type therapy, but I sat down and I wrote the character of Duchess, who's in We Begin at the End. And this was 20 years ago. And I wrote about this girl who was 13 and outwardly a victim, and undoubtedly had a worse time than I did. And I wrote this scene. There's a scene at the beginning of the book where her mum is singing in a bar, and Duchess, you know, she's being heckled, and Duchess defends her. And so I wrote that, and it was probably the early hours in the morning when I finished. And then I went to bed, and I slept for, I think, like 6 or 7 hours. And this was the first time I'd slept since the stabbing. So I woke up and felt a bit better. It was really strange. And the next night I wrote some more and felt a bit better. And then a week after that, I got really drunk and drove my car off the side of the road and flipped it onto its roof, and have a scar down my cheek, which is kind of a reminder every morning when I shave. It's a reminder of what happened. But again, obviously my mum was really disappointed because she didn't know what was going on with me. So she thought I'd just been out drinking and driving like an idiot. And so I went back to writing again. And I probably a year went by where I wrote bits and pieces of what would later become We Begin at the End, but at the time was definitely not a story. You know, I had no interest in being a writer. I didn't enjoy English at school. Didn't ever think, I've always been a big reader, but I didn't ever think of being like a storyteller. And then I began to think about what next, because I was about 20 and like back at square one again. And I just by chance picked up a newspaper and read an article about a stockbroker. And there was a picture of this guy, and he had a yacht and a private jet, and it was like, oh wow, I want this life. And I'm terrible at maths, I should point out, but I thought I'm going to be a stockbroker. So I just went into London with my CV that had nothing on it at all, because I had some bar work and things like that, and I just went and knocked on all the doors of like Barclays and JP Morgan, and they just weren't interested. But one company took pity on me and gave me a job as a trainee stockbroker. And I loved it. You know, I spent the next few years drinking and taking drugs and doing things I shouldn't, and client entertaining and things like that. And I really wanted to be a trader, and I wanted to kind of take the company money and invest it and not have clients and make decisions. And so I begged my boss to let me have a go on the trading desk. And he said, he said, if you lose $20,000, you stop trading, and that's the only rule really. And that was my stop loss. And I came in the next morning all ready to kind of wow them, and I lost $2 million pretty much straight away. And then I kept, my friend worked in the back office, so I said to him, let's keep it quiet and I'll make it back, which is illegal and stupid as well. And so for the next few weeks, I lost a bit more money. And then I came in one morning, and there was like this big glass boardroom, and everyone was sitting in there waiting, like the bosses and lawyers, and there was an empty seat at the end of the table for me. So I sat down, and everything came out. Obviously, they knew everything, and they had two choices at this point. They could have gone to the police, which they definitely could have done. You know, I would have got into serious trouble. And instead, I'd started to make money, a little bit of money, and they said, if you pay us back half, we won't go to the police. So they gave me a contract, and I signed it. And I will always remember riding the train home. And I was 24 years old, and I was in $1 million of debt, and I was engaged, and I didn't tell my fiance that any of this, because, you know, I'd learned from before, I'd learned to just smile and get on with it and not tell anyone, not burden anyone with your problems. So we were getting married, and the wedding costs were spiraling. And so I was putting more and more on the credit card, because everyone thought I was really successful. And I liked that as well. I liked that my parents, I didn't want them to worry about me anymore. My brother was like a high achiever, went to a brilliant university, and I didn't want to be the one that they had to worry about. So I said nothing and went back to you know, drinking too much and things like that, and not knowing what to do, and contemplating, you know, doing something drastic. And then I went back to Dutchess, to Montana, to writing for the first time in years. I picked up where I'd left off, you know, and just began writing this girl again. And I don't know what it was about it, but, you know, it got me through it a second time, you know, and I spent the next few years working off the debt and paid them back and got myself out of trouble. And then I was nearing 30, and everything was kind of settled. And I was kind of on this career path, you know, I was doing well, making loads of money. And I read a book called The Last Child by John Hart. I don't know if any of you have read John Hart before. Yeah, Laura has read John Hart. Yeah. So so I love that book, and it's like this beautifully written, like poetically written, and it was just really inspiring. And when I was reading it, I just forgot everything. You know, when you read a really good book and you just completely, you know, you can forget the world around you. And then I became a bit obsessed with John Hart afterwards, and I tracked down all these interviews, and I read an interview with him where he talked about how it's the last child. Very cool. Takes me back. And so I read an interview with John, and he talked about how he was a successful lawyer, and he quit his job in order to write a book, because, you know, writing made him happy. And the next day I was called into my boss's office and offered a promotion, and I quit there and then because I was really inspired. And I came home, and my wife was pregnant at the time and a student, so we had no other money coming in. And I said to her, I've quit my job, I'm going to write a book. And she didn't know that I'd ever written anything. So we had an interesting conversation. We stayed up all night and planning what to do next, but she was amazingly supportive. So the next day we sold our flat, and we sold our car. We had a nice car, it was all gone. We had no income. we moved to Spain, and I got writing, and I wrote a book called Tall Oaks, which was my debut. And Tall Oaks, you know, went on to win one of the awards you can see behind me at this fancy award ceremony. And so it was like, it was an amazing moment. But my wife burst into tears afterwards, because I think at that point it dawned on me how hard it was for her to be married to someone like me, you know, because I don't really tell her how I feel, or didn't at that point. And she knew I hadn't been happy, and we'd kind of been through a really rough time. And then I wrote another book, and then I began to think about, my editor said, what do you want to write next? And I had this file on my computer, and it was called Dutchess. and it felt a bit like unfinished business. So I pitched my editor this book. I said it's about a little girl that wears a cowboy hat that's kind of like a story of revenge, and I said I'll deliver it in 6 months, and they kind of left me to it, and then 3 years later they got a very rough first draft, and it was tough. And then I met Amy in the US, Amy Einhorn, who is the best editor ever, and she got me to the end. You know, she turned it into the book that's on the shelf behind me. But there were moments when I didn't want it published. You know, it felt like, it's really strange because it's about a 13-year-old girl's set, and it's set in the US, but it felt too personal, because I can pick it up now and pick out a passage, and I'll remember where I was, you know, like 10 years ago, and the mental place that I was in when I wrote that, and it's just really strange. But that is my long answer to your question. How did I become a writer? Yeah, so that's the story.
The truth is stranger than fiction with your story. So
it is. It's a strange one, isn't it? I still sometimes look at my shelf behind me and all the different books and things like that, and can't believe that I'm a writer now. It's like we laugh about it sometimes because it's bizarre. It's really bizarre.
Well, so we're always curious about an author's writing process. So tell us a little bit about how you wrote We Begin at the End. Did you plot it all out like on flashcards and come back to your plot points? Did you write it linearly? How did you?
I sit down and write any scene that I feel like writing. So it's completely in the wrong order, and it's whatever I fancy on the day. There is no plot at all to begin with. It's just a series of, you know, scenes that don't fit together, but I'll know roughly how it's going to end. Like We Begin at the End, I knew how it would end, what was going to happen. I knew that it was going to be Duchess looking for her selfless act, because her mum tells her that selfless acts are what make you a good person. So I knew she'd spend the book looking for that selfless act, and I wanted her to find it at the end. For the process, it's just a mess, you know. I wonder, because I haven't done an MA and I haven't done anything, you know, any kind of creative writing courses. I always wonder if there's a better way, and I think there probably is, but I haven't found it yet.
Hi, Reese. This is Misty from Rapid.
Sorry.
Hello.
Hi. Can we make sure everybody's muted? Thanks, guys. Well, you know, we chatted with
do you know anything about the
earlier
schedule?
And she had kind of equated the process of writing. There are two types of writers. There's like clay makers who just continue to build and build and build. And then there's whittlers who like throw everything down on the page and then they start to scrape away. Mm-hmm. And so it sounds like maybe you're a whittler. I don't know.
I am. So we over here, we say plotters and pantsers. So by the seat of your pants, it's like a thing in the UK. Yeah, so I'm definitely, the latter. But yeah, I think it's whatever works for you.
Okay, great. Well, whatever's going on, I hope everything's okay, and we'll take it from here. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, PCs. Can we make sure your mic's muted? Thanks. Sorry about that, Chris.
That's okay.
So, you know, when you were writing the book, and because you don't necessarily plot everything out, were there any unexpected changes that you made during the process?
Yeah, like I think like most of the characters have huge backstories. Like I probably wrote 500,000 words when I was writing the book, and then cut it back down to 100,000. So you lose a lot, and you lose some characters and things like that. There was nothing massive. We did a lot. Has everyone read it? So I can talk about the ending and things like that.
I think everybody's read it, and we do like to talk about the ending a little later on in the chat.
That's nice. So I don't have to worry. Yeah, so we did a lot of work on Robin, you know, and how that came about with the gun and things like that, and there was a lot of back and forth on the plot and things like that, but nothing was changed majorly. It was just kind of finessed and tightened up, and yeah, it turned into a book basically from just, you know, my endless paragraphs of describing the scenery and things like that.
Wow. Well, so the book started at an end of sorts with coming across Sissy. Mm-hmm. And the phrase "we begin at the end" was used multiple times in the book. So what does the title mean to you? And was this always the title?
So it wasn't, it was, so that prologue at the start where we learned that Sissy's died, I called that We Begin at the End, and I didn't give the book a title because I never get to keep the titles I choose. Like the sales department get involved and things like that, and it gets changed. So I just didn't bother naming it. And then I'd written We Begin at the End in it loads of times. Like they cut loads out because it was ridiculous. It was again and again and again. I didn't realize at the time. So they took that out and suggested it as a title, which I really like because it really fits. You know, it's you begin at the end for all of these characters. You know, we pick up the story again 30 years later, and Walk is, you know, still letting everyone call him Walk. Like he's a teenager, you know, he's the chief of police, and he's still like that kid at the beginning of the book because this terrible thing happened and they all just pressed pause and no one moved forward with their lives. And Walk is still looking back over his shoulder and looking for Vincent and trying to preserve this town because it's, you know, this town is perfect to him, but it was perfect 30 years ago, back when his life made sense. So he stops everyone building in it, and he tries to keep everything as it was. And of course you can't do that. And he's sick in the book, you know, with Parkinson's, and that's it kind of forces him to grow up, you know, that being unwell like that. And it's hard for him. I think he loses his sense of place a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Living in Texas, when you named him Walker, immediately I was just like, okay, Walker, Texas Ranger, but that's not this.
Is that Chuck Norris?
Yes, that is Chuck Norris.
Ah, I know. See, I think we got that.
Yeah. Well, so there were some interesting character names in the book, you know, Duchess, Robin, Walk, Thomas Noble. Are there any stories behind the characters' names themselves, or?
So Duchess, my grandfather was a massive Johnny Cash fan. So I grew up listening to A Boy Named Sue. And so Duchess was named with that song in mind. You know, she is this girl that would rather disappear. And she's given this name that makes people look at her and notice her and remember her. And so, like, as if she needed it, she's forced to grow up even tougher. And as for the other ones, I read a lot of Westerns, and I read a lot of Cormac McCarthy and Lonesome Dove and things like that. And it was kind of a tribute to those, you know, then that sometimes name characters after their attributes and things like that. And Thomas Noble is as noble a kid as you would like to meet. So, and I just really liked it. Yeah, it just really fit well with this kind of story that I was trying to tell.
Definitely. I loved Thomas Noble. I just, when he's like, runs up to that bully and then gets knocked out. Did I win? No.
And I didn't. So I get someone messaged me about a few people to ask me why Duchess is so mean to him, and I didn't realize. You know, I read it back, and she's so mean to him, isn't she? She's really mean, and he's so sweet. And yeah, I loved writing him, and I loved writing their scenes together because she's very grown up. You know, for a 13-year-old, she hasn't really had a childhood, but in those scenes with Thomas Noble, you get a glimpse of her as a 13-year-old, you know, and it's quite funny, and it's a look at the girl she might have been or the girl she might still be, you know, if things change for her. So it was, yeah, I likened it to if some of the story is like you're drowning, writing Thomas Noble was like coming up for air. It was really nice.
Oh yeah, I could definitely see how that would be during the writing process. Well, so we've seen so many posts in our group about Duchess the Outlaw. She's well loved and unique and spunky and brave and a fighter and so many other things. Was she always written to be so direct and outspoken, or did she evolve? Or
she is kind of fearless, but it's, you know, as you've read the book, you know, it's all bravado. She's terrified, you know, of things going wrong and losing her mum and losing Robin, and she finds that the best form of defense is attack, and she did really start like that. I think it's because I felt when I was writing her, I needed to make her stronger than I was, you know, and even though she struggles much more than me, if I was feeling angry, I made her 10 times angrier. So she was everything I was feeling at the time, kind of magnified. Plus she, you know, she has the benefit of being outwardly fearless, so it helps her. But yeah, she stayed true to the girl that I wrote, you know, 20 years ago for the most part, and that's why some of the writing is quite stunted and blunt, you know, and you can write about certain things in an unemotional way, and that's exactly how I wrote it back then, and I kept that style going throughout the book.
Yeah. In our event page, we always invite members to post questions and thoughts on the book, and we do our best to incorporate those in the chat. And so Laura, who's with us today, she had said, so often I would want/expect Duchess to make better decisions, and then I would have to remind myself she's barely a teenager. How did you write such a complex character staying true to her core?
It was tough. It was really tough. It was and so many people have messaged me to say that they, you know, they found her so difficult and abrasive to read, and she's so, you know, and why can't she just do the right thing? And it's frustrating, and she's 13, that's why she can't do the right thing. And it was just a case of working and reworking, and of the years it took to write the book, probably a solid year was writing Duchess's dialogue, and reading endless transcripts of teenagers, you know, and things like that. And I found a site where you can listen to people talk, and you can pick up on speech patterns and how they change when people are feeling certain ways, and so it was just a feeling that I think we've established I don't really know what I'm doing technically, so it was just like a gut feeling, you know, does this feel right? Can I relate to this character? And I didn't at any point kind of think about a wider audience reading it, and I never do when I'm writing a book, because I think it's distracting and it's hard, and it gets in the way, you know, thinking, will readers like this? Should I change that in case someone doesn't like it? I just write the character, you know, and how they would be in real life, how I see them. And I really did hope that people would like Duchess, or not necessarily like her, but empathize at least, you know, and care what's going to happen to her, because she is the star of the show, isn't she? She is the protagonist in that book. You need to feel something for her.
Well, she definitely lended the Western vibe to the book. And, you know, you had said you read a lot of Westerns. So, you know, in that context, the dialogue felt completely appropriate, while abrasive, but appropriate to who she was. So I appreciated it. I liked it.
I'm glad. Thank you. That means a lot, actually. Yeah, so much. I can't even go into how much work goes into the book, you know, to that book in particular. It was just teams of people on both sides of the Atlantic, and over years, you know, editing and copy editing and proofreading, and people checking everything I'd written for factual mistakes and things like that, and me going crazy reading non-fiction and making sure things were right. And yeah, it's nice that people seem to enjoy it, and yeah, that's all I hope for, really.
Well, I like that you write, you know, not necessarily with all of the readers in mind. I mean, you used to work at a library part-time, and you might still, but I mean, you know, there's a book for everyone. Not every book is for everyone. So
yeah, that's exactly right. And I love it. I've just finished at the library. I couldn't keep it going anymore because the book stuff got really, really busy. And so I just never saw my kids. So I had to quit, but I already miss it. You know, I felt really sad on the last day, because it never felt like a job. You know, I'd just go and hang out, and it was like the nicest people work in libraries, and the nicest people go into libraries. And yeah, I like readers in general. I think, do you know what I mean? Like when you go into a bookstore and you feel like you could be friends with the people that work in there because you love books, and it doesn't matter what type of books, you know, we're all readers. So.
Well, we were talking about our kids. I would go to my kids' swim lessons, and I would see a girl sitting next to me with a book, and I would just tap her on the shoulder and be like, "Oh, how do you like that book?" And she'd look at me like, "What?" And then we'd strike up a conversation.
Exactly. Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? And yeah, I like that. Yeah, people are respectful. My worst, I can take bad reviews. You know, I've got thick skin. Way worse has happened to me than someone giving me a bad review. But it's the reviews where they criticize the people that like the book that I hate. Because it's a bit like politics, isn't it? It's like, I can't respect your view, you know, at all. You have to think like I think. And you see it all the time on social media with people. Yeah, it's tough, isn't it, sometimes? But I bite my tongue. Yeah.
Another one of our readers, Maria, she had said, Duchess is my absolute favorite character in the book. As a mom and retired teacher, I love how you, Chris, created adult characters with the ability to see the gem hidden under the rough that she is. In my experience, most adults make assumptions about and treat children like Duchess with open disapproval and even hostility. Were these adult characters based or inspired by people you know or have known? Or
a lot of case studies I read, endless stories about Duchess, about girls like Duchess. It's really tough reading, and it's so horribly common for kids to be forced to grow up too quickly for whatever reason, and end up carers to siblings or parents, and it's really tough. And so I did tons of reading and found, endless characters like the ones in the book that are able to give them a chance and help out and things like that. But you're absolutely right. For the most part, I think kids are written off very young, aren't they? If they do something bad, they can be just, you're written off, and it's tough. And I just wanted to give a voice to Duchess in particular, and to the people that help her. And I think it can be quite a tough read in places, and I had a lot of people message about the ending, and they were upset about it, and I get that, I do get it. But I think Duchess found her selfless act and found herself, and the people around her. I think her mum would have been proud of her, and her dad as well. She kind of found herself by the end of the book.
Oh, I definitely agree. And talking about selfless acts, the first little selfless act that she did by accompanying Thomas Noble to the winter formal, I was just like, oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
I remember her what she said. She's like, this is a selfless act. Oh, okay, maybe I should do it then. I feel like her mom was there. So.
Yeah, I like writing that, and I like writing the scenes with Dark as well. And I didn't want any character to be one-dimensional and a plot device or anything like that. They're all kind of the stars of their own stories, and I was just very aware of that. And particularly with Dark, it was we're all more than the worst things that we've done, but we'll switch on the news or something like that, or pick up a newspaper, and we'll read about the worst thing someone's ever done in their life or is ever likely to do, without any context. And
Chris, you still with us? Chris, you want to hang up and try to rejoin us? We'll see if he rejoins us in a second, guys. And really hoping to get to some spoilers after we get his reads and recs near the end of the convo today. So. Has everybody here already read the book? I assume so, but yeah.
Well, since we have a few minutes, I was just going to show y'all, this is the book he's talking about, and they're so awesome. I mean, if you loved one, you're going to love the other. So I know he didn't say he recommends it, but he kind of did say it. So anyways, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm definitely.
And aren't the covers are really, I mean, not exact, but I do feel like they're very similar. I mean, the color switch and the font, anyways.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Well, Michelle, you love the book. So did I. I loved the book.
Yeah, it definitely was my favorite this year too.
Same here.
Same.
Hello.
Hey, Chris.
Can you hear me again?
Yes.
Hi, sorry, my internet has just gone down. I don't know why.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad that you were able to dial back in.
Yeah, I'm on 4G, so hopefully it's okay.
Yeah, it's working so far. So we were talking about Dark. I thought, and I was going to get to Dark. All of the characters are complex, and I loved, and I agree that all of them were more than just the worst thing that they did. Dark was not just the bad guy, and you did a really good job of making him not just the bad guy.
Yeah, there's a line in it where Duchess gets into the car with him, and he says he doesn't want to appear to be the man that he really is to her, because he's really a good man. But he you know, he does, it works to his advantage for them to all think that he's this monster kind of. So yeah, I liked writing dark, and it's only at the very end that you really learn, you know, who he is and why he's done all these things during the book.
Mhm. Yeah. So some of the other characters I loved Hal. Like, he wasn't what you thought he was, like his trips back home that you didn't know about, and the presents that he had set aside. And I liked that humanization of him. So you didn't begrudge him entirely for
Yes.
the choices that he made. So
I think he you know, he's not in the book for that long, but he has a lasting impact on Duchess, and I liked you still there?
yeah, we're
Right,
still
hang
here.
on one sec, my phone is running out. One sec, I plugged it in. Okay, that's better. Right. It's his phone, isn't it? Right, so how kind of, you know, I think he gets, in those few months that he spends with Duchess, I think that he's happier than he's been in a long time, you know, and I think he gets a lot out of all of a sudden having these kids back in his life, or in his life that he's never known. And it's a big moment for him. And I wanted to capture how hard it was for him as well, you know, because Duchess is a bit of a nightmare, isn't she, when they're, you know, like with the dress that she wears to church and things. She's tough. She's hard, a difficult kid to love.
Yeah, she is. So there were a lot of themes in the book: justice, redemption, revenge. And Laura had asked, you know, how far will we go to protect our own? And she'd love to hear your thoughts on that and the themes. And
yeah, so it was again, because it didn't start out as me trying to tell a particular story. I didn't have anything in mind that I wanted to get across. I just wanted to write a kind of snapshot of a year in the life of this girl, you know, a really pivotal year in her life. But yeah, it was kind of, you know, I wanted to look at forgiveness, you know, and what that means, and revenge and what that means. And if the two things can ever, you know, if you get those things, what do they really mean? You know, because you can forgive yourself, and I think Duchess is quite hard on herself throughout the book, and she doesn't see herself as a child in an unfair situation. She just sees that her younger brother needs her to be this certain way, and she's not capable of being that way. So she deems herself a failure. But I also wanted to look at, you know, forgiveness, and if it's possible to forgive the people that have wronged you, and if it's possible to forgive yourself and move past the bad things that you've done. And yeah, and I wanted to, and I definitely explored that in Vincent's character.
I have a question, but I'll come back to it a little later.
Okay.
So the book contains multiple genres: a crime novel, coming of age, a bit Western. So if you walk into a bookstore in 10 years, where is this book going to be shelved, do you
That's
think?
the tough one, isn't it? And I know, because I had to shelve it in the library. So I put copies all over the library. So wherever you go, you will get one of these. But I see, I think, a coming of age story above all else. You know, I like to see a love story. I get that it's crime, and I get that it's a mystery, and that's where it will be shelved. But yeah, I think it needs its own stand, is what I'm trying to say. Right at the front, loads of them. Yeah. I don't know, where would you put it?
I mean, general fiction, just because I think that would reach the most, that's where most people walk. I very rarely go into specifics, but only because, like I said, I would want the most people, for it to get the most eyes.
Yeah.
I think that's where it would go. But
yeah, I agree. I completely agree.
When you finished the novel, did you sit with the characters at all? Like, in your mind, did you see where they played out beyond the end of the pages, or did you just put them down? And
I've been forced to lately, because so there's the TV stuff going on with the story, and Disney have it, and so I've had lots of meetings with them about what could happen next, and I never have. And people message me and want to know if they get back together, Duchess and Robin, and they're very young, and they, you know, they're gonna have this house that they own, and without doubt they will find each other again. But I think for now, Duchess does that, gives that selfless act, you know, and she, you know, she does what he needs, because I did loads of research into that, and that sort of trauma that a child like Robin, you know, if he had been through, if there's no reminders, if someone like Vincent had kind of absolved him of it and told him he did it, you know, there's a good chance he won't remember the details, and he might, you know, have a chance to have an okay life, you know, and that's what Duchess does for him. But I would like to think that they find their way back to each other, for sure.
Yeah, I'd like to think so too, because they're so young. There's a lot of life left to live.
Yeah,
but,
there is.
so speaking of the project with Disney, is it going to be a TV series? Is it going to be a movie? What kind of
TV series? So I think they've just found a writer now. But so I had this mad week where I was working at the library in the day and Zooming with Hollywood Studios in the evening, which isn't my normal life. So I met with loads of them, and Disney was Tommy Kell, who directed Hamilton. I'm a massive Hamilton fan. You know, it's a masterpiece, and I had a great meeting with him, with Tommy, and it just felt right. You know, that gut feeling thing again. It felt like Disney was the right home for this and for Duchess, and they just really got it, and I'm certain that I made the right decision. So yeah, it was really cool.
Fantastic. And since they're reaching out to you, how involved do you think you'll be in the process?
I think they will find it hard to keep me away. Very. At Disney, will Disney keep Duchess's language? They absolutely will. Yeah, because it's 20th TV, which is 20th Century Fox as I know them. So they're not, while it's Disney, it doesn't have to be a Disney, you know, like people think a Disney film. I don't think you could lose Duchess's colourful language without losing part of Duchess, and I would hate for that to happen, and they would as well. I will be very involved, yeah, as much as they'll let me, and I think the contract says they have to let me.
Well, good. Fantastic. When you were writing the novel, did you envision any Hollywood people being these characters, or now that you know it's been opted, do you have thoughts on casting?
I never do, because they're my characters and they're in my head the whole time, and I only see the people that I've created. But people send me their ideas so many times. Duchess is a tricky one, but there's some good actresses. One who read the book with her mum, because she's only 11, and she is very Duchess, and she sent a video of herself singing a song from the book, Bridge Over Troubled Water, and she's so talented. She's an actress on a show on Netflix, and as for the others, we get a lot of David Harbour, who is in Stranger Things for Walk, you know, the cop from Stranger Things. Yeah, so he's like, everyone suggests him for Walk. And we had Ed Harris for Hal. Not many Vincents, but just everyone they suggest, I think would be, you know, we'd be lucky. We should be so lucky to get these people. So it's very cool.
Yeah, we had a few people give a few casting suggestions. I don't know if you're familiar with the Ozarks. If Duchess were a little older, the blonde from the Ozarks, Ruth.
Yeah, someone sent that to me. Someone messaged me to ask if I'd watched it, because Duchess is very like, I've forgotten the character's name, but I saw some of series 1, but I don't recall. I don't know if she was in it then, but I'm going to watch it at some point.
Well, so let me see. Are you already working on your next novel? And are there any
I
details
am.
you care to share?
It's a big kind of mystery, but it's a love story at its heart. It's a big love story, and it spans 30 years in the US, and it's driving me mad at the moment. Actually, it's so difficult to write, and with any luck, it should be out in spring 2023. So,
Okay.
assuming I manage to finish it. Yeah.
Well, where is it going to be set at in the US, if you can say?
It's kind of all over. It's someone searching for someone else, and they cross many states doing it. So huge amounts of research, and that's okay. I'm happiest when I'm got my head in a map or something, and I'm working out routes and things like that, and telling stories. So while it drives me mad, there's nothing else I would rather do.
Well, with the pandemic, have you made it to the States yet to do any sort of events for this book yet?
Three times I've had to push it. So I was supposed to be in New York in March, and then May, and then September, and I've just pushed it again. So hopefully the paperback comes out in April next year. So I'm hoping then that I can come and see everyone in the flesh, because I have many people to thank.
Yeah, we would love to see you in
I
person.
would
in
love
April,
that.
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
well, what do you hope that the readers take away from We Begin at the End?
I began when I wrote it, I had no bigger ambition than people enjoyed it, and it provided some entertainment, and however that comes, whether it makes you feel sad or happy or just feel something, just to entertain, really. I wanted people to enjoy the story and be glad that they chose to read We Begin at the End over, a million other brilliant books.
Mhm. All right, well, we're going to ask one more question before we get to the spoilery things. Chris, can you tell us what are you currently reading or recommending? It doesn't have to be current, but anything you'd like to share with us.
It's not current. So I'm currently reading All the Light We Cannot See.
Oh my gosh, I love that book.
It's so good, isn't it? So I've had it on my shelf for a long time and have not got round to it, but it's brilliant. And a book called Complicit by Winnie Lee, which comes out next year, I think, in the US. And it's a bit Harvey Weinstein-y. It's set in that world, like Hollywood and things like that. And yeah, it's good. So far, so good.
Oh, fantastic. Anthony Doerr, who wrote All the Light We Cannot See, his new book comes out, I think, next week. So
wow, that's
Cloud Cuckoo Land. So yeah.
That's a big deal.
Well, thank you everybody who attended. And if you haven't had the chance to read the book, this might be the time that you exit us so that you don't get any spoilers. So thanks for coming. And now, Chris, yeah. So I've had a lot of questions, and this isn't an ending spoiler, but I've had a few questions asked. What about the tape? Like, how did it get from point A to point B? And I know the answer, but if you'll share it with everybody. So. Of
course, yeah. Lots of people have asked. So there's a character called Dee Lane in the book, and Dark is her landlord. She rents a house from Dark. So there's a bit quite near the beginning of the book where Dark is evicting her and offers to put some of her stuff in storage. He tells her to leave the stuff out the front of her house. So Duchess has the tape, stops outside Dee Lane's house and sees a bunch of what she thinks is garbage sacks ready to be taken away, and is in actual fact Dee Lane's possessions that are going to Dark's storage facility. So she shoves the tape in one of these bags, and the whole tragedy could have been avoided had Dark known that he had the tape the whole time. So yeah, it's poetic and very sad.
Just the series of bad happenstances for a lot of different characters in this book, and the tape being just one of those things.
Yes.
I remember when I first read the book, before we had gotten to the heartbreaking section, I was like, okay, well, now the book's over. We know who did what. And then I was like, what else can there be? How are there more pages left in this book? And then you add that heartbreaker section. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I cried so much. And then Vincent at the end, just taking the choice from Duchess. Oh, do you have any thoughts? Do you think that she would have pulled that trigger? Or if you don't have any thoughts, it's fine.
I like to think that she wouldn't. But knowing what she's like, I don't know. She's impulsive and she often makes bad decisions. And I think she's got it in her. If she thought she was doing the right thing for her brother, I don't think there's anything she wouldn't do. But he found his selfless act as well, Vincent, in that. And he spends the whole book, he doesn't believe that he can find atonement. And I'm not sure you can in those circumstances, causing the death of a child. I would imagine it's not something you can ever get over. So, he kind of lives his life for his children at that point. He does the house up for them, and then and gets to die in a way that saves her, from becoming him. So
I felt so bad for Vincent. I mean, it was a tragic accident, and the way that he made his life just the hardest version that he could for the rest of it. It was just so.
Yeah.
And then Laura had asked earlier, can Walk ever reconcile the way the decision that he made for the court and falsifying those records? I mean, it was a bit of a 180, but I liked it. How did you reconcile?
I think that was Walk. Duchess lost faith in him at that point, which was the sad part of it. But he did what he felt was right, you know, and it went against everything he'd kind of preached throughout the book. I like to think he'll forgive himself. You know, I think by the end of the book, you know, there's a line at the beginning where he says to his doctor, you know, if you ever see him on a fishing boat, just shoot him. And then at the end, he sends her a photo and he's got his own fishing boat. he's changed a bit. He's learned to let go, I think, of the person that he was trying to be, you know, and just focus on trying to be happy.
Do you think all of the characters had a fitting end, or got the end they deserved, or?
I don't know. I don't think you do in life, do you? Generally, it's random. It's a tough one. I just think they got the endings. Yeah, they got their endings. I don't know if it's probably for the readers to decide if they deserved them or not. I don't think Hal did, you know. But he, you know, for much of his life, he hadn't been there for the people that needed him, or he felt that way. And again, he got to die protecting his granddaughter.
Yeah. Well, so someone had asked, why doesn't Walk take in Duchess? And I know at one point she told him, you know, just leave me alone, and he respected that. So I kind of just took that as that's why. But was there any other?
Yeah, I think he's unwell. For starters, and he knows he's not going to get better, and I don't think he thinks he's worthy, you know, of raising someone like that. And in Dolly we get a glimpse of, you know, she's had a really tough life, and she was Duchess a long time ago, and she turned out okay, and she's strong, and we get the feeling that if she can be okay, then Duchess probably will be too. And I think that Duchess finding Dolly is the ending that Duchess deserves. You know, someone like that that's tough enough to take her. I think it will do her the world of good.
Oh, I agree. It was definitely fitting. I liked Dolly, so we didn't get to talk much about her, but yeah, I liked her. Well, I think that we've touched on everybody's questions. So Chris, thank you so much for taking the time to come and chat with us. And we really can't wait until your next book, but we're going to continue to recommend We Begin at the End for people who haven't heard about it yet. So
thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Everyone's been so lovely. It's I've been looking forward to this one. So thank you.
Oh, well, fantastic. We can't wait to share it with all the moms who couldn't make it live, because you know how that goes. So. Yeah. All right, Chris, well, take care, and thank you again.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, guys.